All right, Mr. M, thank you for coming back. Let's talk about AI in education.
AI or technology, because I see those things as different.
Okay, let's talk about technology first,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna move into talking about AI.
Okay.
For the second part, yes. So technology, like I have a nephew. At his school, they're using a tablet in their classroom. So that's considered as using technology. Have you experienced any other technological involvement in like online teaching?
Cambly itself is the technology, right? It's
Right,
over the
right.
computer, so they're using their devices, whether
Mhm.
it's a laptop or a tablet or a phone. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to share my screen, and I use different websites to kind of help them learn the language. And those websites are great because they're made specifically for kids, so they definitely grab their attention. One of my students, he's a bit older, but every time I prepare a lesson for him and I go to the website, he shouts, "Yay, games!"
Yeah, I love games too. Yeah,
Mhm.
everybody does. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he sees it more as like a game, but it's like I don't know if you're familiar with Duolingo.
Duolingo. Oh, yes, I know Duolingo. Yes.
So I don't use Duolingo, but it's similar to Duolingo where it gamifies the lesson. So it takes like a sentence and it will scramble the phrases, and then he has to unscramble the phrases, and
Right.
he gets points.
I see. In that sense, technology can make study more fun for students, like learning experience.
Definitely younger students helps them focus. It makes them feel like they're playing a game and not actually doing a lesson.
I see.
When it comes to older students, I think definitely the level of their English is important.
Okay.
Sometimes I meet a student whose English, level is not advanced,
Right.
and they make a lot of mistakes in their sentence structure. And so I use those games to just kind of guide them, they always catch on pretty quickly because there's always a pattern, right?
I see.
Yeah, but not for my older students. My older students, I probably would just go to one of my normal websites where I choose an article.
Oh, okay. Article reading then. Yeah. I see.
Yeah. Well, those articles are customized towards English learners as well. So, for example, Breaking News English and Ingu.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that website.
Those things, they usually take relevant articles and they also transform them into conversational lessons.
Technology does that for you and for students.
Mm-hmm.
I see. In that field, that's where AI comes in. Like automatically select certain articles that a student will be interested in.
You're talking about AI?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to shift into AI talking, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. AI is, for me, it's a bit foreign, because when it comes to AI, I don't have a lot of experience using AI in the classroom. When I think about AI, I think about something like Duolingo, where it kind of studies the patterns that you leave behind when you make the areas that you make the most mistakes. And then later on, it tests you specifically in those areas, right?
Right.
That's, to me, is like AI in education, but I don't know, like in a classroom, how that has, what kind of effects that has. I haven't seen it yet.
I see. Well, I have another article. I tried to send it to you, but it's all in Japanese. I'm sure there are English version as well, but I couldn't find it in time, so I apologize. But
No problem.
so this article says there's some place AI cannot replace. For example, be a motivator. Of course, Duolingo and AI can motivate students, like oh yeah, level up, and you can go to next stage, or you unlock a certain stage. Computers can motivate in a certain way, but definitely we need a human teacher to motivate students, like learning experience. There are certain things that I couldn't have accomplished if it were for computer or machine. I've met a couple favorite teachers in the US and in Japan as well, and they were great motivators. I'm sure AI cannot replace that, AI cannot bring same effect. I find a priceless connection as humans. We all go into society at some point, and in society we'd have to communicate with another people, right? Of course.
Right.
So I find a great value in that. Not only English learning, but learning in general. It's gotta be human to teach some life lessons. AI can really take teachers' mundane tasks like paperwork and grading student papers and stuff like that. I found some article that says people don't have to learn another language because machines can do that for you. What do you think about that?
People who say that are very unaware of how different cultures are and how different languages are, right? There are certain languages that we don't have those words in English, right?
I see.
For example, I think, right, you're in Japan, correct?
Yes.
I think there's a word for people who work themselves to death, right? What is the word?
In Japanese?
Yeah.
Karoshi.
Karoshi, right? But in English, we don't have a word for that, to describe that. That's something that we would describe in phrases. Speaking Japanese and being able to communicate in Japanese, communication is different. The norms of life are different. Those norms and that culture and that language, they're intertwined. So if you truly want to understand the Japanese people and Japanese society, Japanese history, Japanese culture, speaking Japanese
is a must.
Is a must. It's a must. No matter how much Japanese you study, you're going to reach a point where you're going to need to speak some Japanese to be able to translate things, right? Yeah. So, we'll definitely be able to communicate the basics, our feelings, but we won't really understand one another,
That kind of ties into what you were talking about earlier. AI and technologies are for beginners. In the early process, like Duolingo can boost students' motivation. But after student passes a certain level, maybe, like you said, we need to go out there and try to learn from the real life. That's something machines cannot provide us. AI cannot provide us. And maybe that's important. I guess the article I found in Japanese are for business persons, so they don't have to worry about intimate communication. They just want to have like business conversation. That's all. And for that purpose only, maybe AI, like translation, machine translation can help them.
Yeah, usually what this is talking about is just a tool to help sell people more stuff. Right? It's not something that encouraging learning. When we look at our patterns of behavior, regardless of countries, we have so many similarities. And these are the similarities that they just want to be able to communicate, right? The things that they already know.
I see. How about like customize, adapting to student needs? I'm just reading off the article. Each student has different needs, different interests, and so especially when it comes to language learning, like I'm interested in politics and art and entertainment, but some people have different interests than mine, of course. For the sake of learning English, we need to find some topic to get conversation going and something that really sparks our interest and stimulate our brain or something like that. And I'm really enjoying this conversation just in general in any topic in English, because my first language is not English and I want to learn English. So anything goes for me, but for certain people, maybe they just want to talk about politics or like business or certain trades or movies. So that's what I mean by like each student has different needs or different interests. And maybe AI can help accommodate those students, especially in a big classroom.
Yeah, definitely. It's, for me, speaking Spanish and speaking French and now learning Chinese, it's opened my eyes to so many different cultural things. And also living in the country is a great thing. I feel like every new language that I learn, I gain a new soul. Right, within myself. So right now I have several souls operating. I have a French soul, I have a Spanish soul, gaining my Chinese soul, not specifically Chinese culture, more Asian culture, or the similarities that all the Asian cultures have. People in general, more peaceful people than compared to the rest of the world.
I agree with that. Like Asian people are thought to be less competitive, somewhat. Because the rice culture.
I wouldn't say competitive. They're definitely more competitive, especially when it comes to education and work.
Right?
That's a lot of competition there.
Right.
I would say less confrontational. I rarely see Asian people getting into physical altercations with one another.
Right.
Where I come from, that is a norm. American guys just beating the hell out of each other. And people are just walking by like it's another Sunday. I feel like it's similar in Europe. Maybe not all European countries, but especially it's South America. Violence is very prevalent. But in Asia, it's just not the norm. People see those things, they're genuinely very shocked. I like to watch this thing online. It's called Bushmen. It's where people dress up like bushes, and when people walk by, they kind of just reach out to them and scare them.
Okay.
And what I've noticed is, people get scared, right? People scream, but people who are more westernized, they scream and they use a lot of profanity. And Asians just scream and holler and are sometimes even more scared. Like they hold their chest more often. And I see Westerners holding their chest. They're not used to being afraid. They're not used to feeling fear. So when they see something that's scary, it plays a really big. It affects them like very, very deeply.
I see. Yeah, less confrontational, definitely. Yeah. Asian people are not used to being confrontational.
Yeah, but just confronting certain hostile situations. I met a lot of people. They just don't know how to. They've rarely experienced this before,
Those things, like you said earlier, you'd have to go there and actually experience it.
Yeah, learn the language to understand what it is that you're seeing.
I think that's really awesome that you have different souls, like how you described it. That's something I feel the same way because. When I'm living in Japan, like as I am right now, I'm a bit of more on Japanese side. But whenever I'm talking to someone like yourself in English, I want to say I don't want to say American side, but I'd rather say Westernized version of me comes out. And I feel that from time to time. So I know what you mean by like having different souls, and that's a great way to describe it. Yeah. Mr. M, here's my question. What's one of the best experiences that you've had when teaching students English?
I would say my best experience would be I got to see their progress. To have a student for an entire year. And in the beginning of that year, you taught them their ABCs, you taught them their 1, 2, 3s. And then by the end of the year, you're having political debates. Right.
Wow.
It's really great to be a part of that. I'm not saying I'm the sole reason that they reach that level. I understand that, teaching someone anything, you're just a component in their journey, right? They still have other things that they need to do along the way to reach that goal, right? And you were just one of the components to that. But to be part of that, and then to also have someone who takes it seriously. So that means that after your classes, they do other things to improve their English. And then at the end of the year, you can have basic conversations. They can express almost anything, not perfectly, but it's a long way from ABCs to 2.
Yeah, it's come a long way. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was probably the best part of teaching for me.
I see. Well, so being able to have students over a year, is that a rare thing to happen online?
It's not that it's rare. It's that learning a language is not always absolutely necessary. It's something that they can start and stop whenever. And what that does is it sometimes falls into the lower category of priorities, right? And so you can sometimes begin with someone, but then other things are happening in their lives, and they prioritize those things over studying English.
Right.
You see them less and less and less until you don't see them at all, right?
Right.
It could be sometimes it's really serious, sometimes it's not so serious stuff, but that is more likely to happen, right?
That's life. That's life in general.
Right. Exactly. It creates because we're just distance apart, But when someone has to go to an institute,
I see.
It's a little easier. It's not as easy to
it's just a whole different level of commitment.
It is.
I see.
It is. Yeah. And it's something that they're used to because we grow up in that school system, right? So when they miss a class, they feel it. It feels like, oh man, I missed a day of school. But online, it's just like, I have another one next week. I'll just So I have 2 to 3 students, maybe even up to 5 students. 2 of them I've been with for almost 2 years, younger, and the other ones on and off. Yeah, but it's been years since Oh, actually, the longest student I have him next after you, almost 4 years.
4 years, wow.
Yeah,
it's a lifetime learning process. I mean, I would like to learn English for my lifetime. Even when I'm in my 50s, I'd like to learn English. And to do that, maybe being on and off is kind of important.
Yeah.
You can't study like 100%, always 100%. Sometimes, you gotta take it easy.
Yeah, definitely.
All
It's
right.
a great conversation.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Me.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.